Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Sulia podcast. And today, let's talk Ballon d'Or. And I'm going to make a case for Ousmane Dembele and why I think Lamine Yamal shout is a good shout, but it's not deserved of the Ballon d'Or. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Lamine Yamal is an impressive, immense talent, an impressive player. However, I think this year is not the year of Lamine Yamal. This year is the year of Ousmane Dembele, considering the fact that Ousmane Dembele has played six more games less than Lamine Yamal and still has had an immense contribution to the quadruple won by PSG. Let me walk you through it. So earlier in the season, if you were talking Ballon d'Or and if you were talking players who were on the lips of everyone, that's before December, you had Salah, you had Raphinha, because they were balling. They were balling for their respective clubs. Note that Raphinha plays in the same team Lamine Yamal plays in. There were no talks of Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal was this sensation who won the Golden Boy because of his performances in the Euros, top player. But he was never really in the conversation for best player when it came to the Ballon d'Or. It was Raphinha who was leading the charge because Raphinha had a very good story. In fact, to prove this right, Raphinha today was awarded the best La Liga player. And that is because we are considering the whole season as a whole. If you take within the Barcelona team itself, Lamine Yamal on the whole season, if you are talking about someone who helped Barcelona win the La Liga, it was not Lamine Yamal. I'm very sorry, he played a very pivotal role, but then Raphinha's renaissance has much more effect, and that has been recognized as him being the La Liga player of the season. That's fine. You juxtapose that to Ousmane Dembele, who won the League One player of the season, won the Champions League player of the season, and even in fact, if you're talking about Champions League player of the season, the conversation will have to be between Raphinha and Ousmane Dembele. There is at no point where the conversation should be between Lamine Yamal and Lamine Yamal and Ousmane Dembele, because Lamine Yamal had great games, especially during the latter part of the season. Great to watch, great everything. But then the thing is, the argument that has got going for Lamine Yamal is the eye test. Like, oh, he's great to watch, he's great on the eye. I can equally make that same argument for Ousmane Dembele, because if anybody watched the Champions League final, if anyone at all watched the Champions League final, anyone at all who watched the Champions League final knows that Ousmane Dembele balled. He didn't score, but he balled. Balled in the sense that playing as a false nine, this guy understands the role well. Created chances, created opening, pressed like a damn hyena. And that is the beauty or the renaissance of Ousmane Dembele. I mean, you juxtapose that to let's even go into the story of Ousmane Dembele. Ousmane Dembele was this young prodigy who used to play in Rennes, then moved to Borussia Dortmund, and then was bought by Barcelona and was this bombers. People didn't like him. The Messi fans thought that he was Gonzalo Higuain of Messi's club level, was just not balling. He didn't live up to his potential. And he was bought for so much money. So there was that disdain for Ousmane Dembele. I mean, essentially disappointed everyone who thought he had a high ceiling. He moves to Paris Saint-Germain, back to France. And it's okay, he's really not the star player. Even when he was playing for France at the World Cup, not really impressive. Then comes in Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique, as the PSG coach, tried to whip this guy in line, didn't get him to play the way he wants, benched him, and essentially he had to buy into what Luis Enrique was teaching. He had to buy into Luis Enrique's philosophy. He had to buy into the kind of football Luis Enrique was playing. And the truth of the matter is, without Ousmane Dembele, PSG do not achieve what they achieved this season. It's simple as that. Without Ousmane Dembele's presence, without his explosiveness, I mean, without his output, PSG are not going to win the quadruple they won this season. It's just as simple as that. His stats, his goals, his assists, even missing games and even being injured, especially in the second half of the season, makes him the front runner. And it will be delusional for anybody to think that for a French award, Lamine Yamal is going to win. But then let's go to the Lamine Yamal story. Let's not get it twisted. He's a prodigy. The question is, I think, arguably, he's going to be one of the best prodigies football has seen in a long while, because football has seen a lot of young prodigies. We've seen Bojan, we've seen even Ansu Fati in their own team, we've seen Dele Alli, we've seen like ballers who had a high ceiling and were not doing what he's the last time you saw a young baller still live up to his ceiling was maybe Lionel Messi. So the hour of he's 17 years old and he's doing this thing is great, it's beautiful and all of that. But then, just as he has his abilities and his story, I equally think the Dembele story is inspiring. That once you keep your head up, once you listen to your coach, the only disadvantage when it comes to Lamine Yamal, which people won't tell you, is that he was pivotal to Barca, but there were so many other players who deserve a shout at winning the, and even between and that's why Barcelona fans' logic really kills me, because even within the Barcelona fans for a very long time, Raphinha was the one Barcelona fans were parading. And I'm saying Barcelona, I'm acknowledging that there are other people who are not necessarily Barcelona fans and still think Lamine Yamal. But then most of the PR was coming from the Barcelona side, and the need for them to have a player winning the Ballon d'Or, and mostly was Raphinha. And that was a very good shout, because Raphinha had the numbers to compete for the Ballon d'Or. And Raphinha had a very similar story to Ousmane Dembele. Raphinha was this guy who was so good at Sporting, was at Leeds. He was very good at Leeds, and they ended up in relegation, but was bought by Barcelona. And even Barcelona fans didn't like this guy again, like a Dembele 2.0. He didn't play well for most of the time he was. But in fact, prior to this season, Raphinha was on the verge of being sold. The only thing that saved Raphinha is he's had a very immense season, playing a position which is not truly his, because he has to accommodate Lamine Yamal. Barcelona fans, remember the talk about having Nico Williams coming to play with Lamine Yamal because Raphinha was a bum. Raphinha has had the numbers to compete with Ousmane Dembele and has deserved the shout. Raphinha has been consistent throughout the season. Lamine Yamal, for most parts of last season, has scored just one goal. He had 5 goals prior to December as a winger. Come on. I mean, consistently and throughout the season, we would be very honest if you made a shout about Raphinha. We could maybe have a conversation because he would come closer. But then that does not disprove of the brilliance and the eye test. Eye test can be a criteria, and I agree with people who talk about eye test. But then I don't think it is the delta, or I don't think it is what will shift the debate or what will shift the argument between who deserves to get the Ballon d'Or. Over seasons, from the days of Messi, Ronaldo, and everything, what has been the delta is what did you achieve? What did you win? And that's why a year before that, Karim Benzema won the Champions League. He won the Ballon d'Or. Rodri won the Ballon d'Or last season because he won the Euros. Laurels are very important. And for Ousmane Dembele to win not just the laurels but have the numbers to back it. Normally, players who do not even win laurels and still win the Ballon d'Or was because they had the numbers but they didn't have the laurels. Ousmane Dembele has both the numbers and both the laurels, and it's therefore preposterous for us to suggest that someone who does not have the numbers as Ousmane Dembele has should win because he's beautiful to watch on the eye. See, I know.